upon the solid foundation that is your word of hope. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. Tony, talking about architecture, I don't think we could have planned it better with that gospel where we have the disciples and Jesus marveling at architecture. They have come down in our gospel reading from the sticks from Galilee. And here they find themselves in the great temple, which the King Herod at that time had been restoring and adding on to and building into an amazing temple, ostensibly to God, but probably just as much to himself to show his people how great a guy he was. And so there they are in the amazing temple in Jerusalem looking around, and we have the story of the treasury, which was a box where you would put your pledge card and your offering, just like today. But rich people were coming in and ostentatiously dropping in large amounts, and the widow comes in and puts in her 2 copper coins in her poverty. And we have that familiar story. And right after this, the disciples seem to have not paid quite enough attention to the widow and her 2 copper coins because they're still really impressed with all the stuff they can see. And it is impressive. Whenever I go to a place that has a big old building, especially churches or cathedrals, I love to go in. I will confess. I love looking at the old architecture and the stained glass and the wonderful things, the hangings that people have stitched by hand, for taking them many, many months or years. I love to see this stuff. And whenever we go abroad, and we've been blessed to go more than once, but we brought our kids along, dragged them into these cathedrals, and like, and then when they're in college, they called us up and like, did we go to this place that I'm learning about? I'm like, yep, we dragged you there. Oh, I thought so. Now they're not so sorry. So, what is the most impressive old place you have been? Think on your own experiences when you found a place that had great history and you went in and just sort of soaked in that feeling of history. Maybe it wasn't a Christian place. Maybe it was one of the places that had been inhabited by native cultures, or you made it down to see the step pyramids in Mexico, or maybe the pyramids of Egypt, or maybe a cathedral in Europe. What was it that most caught your attention? Was it the age? Was it the physical property of it? Was it the echoes of sound that would get caught up into the space? Or maybe it was just the marvel that in a time without bulldozers and cranes, people could make something like this. Traveling has been such a blessing for those of us who can do it and get to a place that is so different than our own. And so no wonder the disciples with Jesus were just flabbergasted by what they saw, because there's nothing like this out in Galilee or by the fishing villages, Capernaum, and by the sea, the lake. And here they are, astonished to see what people have built. And Jesus says, don't pay attention to that. Someday it will all be gone. What? It happens. Stuff happens, time happens. How many of you have been to Notre Dame in Paris? 100 years to build it, 15 hours to burn the roof through, and it'll take them another 5 years or so with modern machinery, hopefully, to have it back to a place where people can worship again. But stuff of this world, even the most beautiful buildings, can topple for any number of reasons. Notre Dame, the revolutions nearly brought parts of it down. Other wonderful buildings and cathedrals have been bombed. If you've been to Coventry in England, other places are seemingly miraculously spared. Wonderful stories of things like that happening too. How did Durham get spared and not Coventry? I don't know, but I'm glad Durham was spared. So these buildings that we put so much trust in, Jesus says, watch out. that you don't put your trust in the wrong places and the wrong people. In essence, he's preparing his friends for the time when he won't be around and warning them to be careful. To be careful of people who come up and say, follow me now, or buildings that will ask for them to put their trust in keeping a building going. But what about a discipleship? The balance of buildings versus programs are something that churches always face, right? Do we pay the priest or do we keep the building standing? Do we keep the heat on or do we say we can't keep the heat on anymore, let's go do something different? We've had several churches in this diocese say, you know what? It's not worth keeping the heat on when we can be doing ministry out there in the world. It is a choice. It is a choice. What will be our legacy for the future? Sometimes you just have to have a vision to keep you going, to keep you focused on what is the right way to go. As we heard from Isaiah in our first lesson, Isaiah had a vision that none of us are probably going to say is going to happen anytime soon. The lions lying down with the lambs. Talk to people at the Detroit Zoo, I think they would say, lamb chops for dinner. No. You're not going to see your lambs again. But Isaiah had this wonderful vision where someday everyone will be in harmony, even creation. Someday we won't have people who are hungry. Someday we won't have towns that get overrun by invaders. Someday you'll be able to plant your garden knowing you'll be able to eat the crops and not the Babylonians around the corner who are going to come and take it all away from you. That's what that part had to do with. Someday, as he tells people who are just moving back from their captivity into a Jerusalem that was many places rubble, it'll be better. God is still with you. But here's a vision where things are in harmony, where people aren't fighting anymore, where nations aren't battling anymore, where we can live in peace. So with that vision, Isaiah sent the people back from Babylon to Jerusalem. What will be our vision for moving forward? People in those places that built great temples, many of them would never see the result. Somebody drew a design for a cathedral. We should make it the shape of a cross and make it as tall as we can get. Oh my gosh, the walls are starting to fall in. Let's build some buttresses. Oh, that worked pretty well. Let's build some more buttresses. Hey, look at those. They look pretty cool. Let's build some towers. But the people getting it started and most of the workers, they just had to trust that that vision would come true. And for us whose vision is not a grander building, but a better community, what will be our vision? My vision for you might not be the same as your vision for you, but if we keep Jesus in mind and what he has to say to all of us, hopefully we're moving in the same direction. A legacy for another generation or two. What will people coming back here in 20 years experience? Will they find the same green carpet and the pews in the exact same place? Maybe not. But hopefully they will find a people who have been here keeping prayers and songs ascending while they are going out into the world following Jesus also. Put not your trust in buildings, Jesus says. Put not your trust in rulers who would take you away from what I've taught you. Put not your trust in people shouting, the end is near, when maybe just the beginning or something different is near. Legacies are meant to be left by one generation to the other and then tested and tried by the next generation. Did we inherit? Yes. What do we do with that? Did God teach us something? Yeah. Where do we take that next? In our mutual search for the future of St. George's, maybe realize that the strongest foundation is not a building, it is a people. It's always been a people. As we like to tell the kids in Sunday school, church is people, not a building. and the people who have shared their hopes and dreams and their resources and their time to make this a place and a people that follow Jesus. We're still working on it, friends. That task doesn't end, but the fruits can be seen in what happens not only inside but outside. So may we not get too impressed with ourselves and keep looking for the future in which Jesus is leading us outward, because we have that foundation. Our church isn't as old or as grand as a big cathedral in Europe. It's kind of funny that it's got a sign outside that says 1953, 57, 53. Is that history? Durham says, 1090 or something, that's history. But we do have history because it's people who have been here before us. May we be impressed by their willingness to give and inspired to do our part, following Jesus, the shepherd of the sheep, the inspiration of our moves, and the giver of the Spirit to help us get it done. Amen.
Amen.